are you doing? This is Martin from Gardens for Life. So we're back here again to give you another tour of the Bullaun Ark in Loughrea in County Galway in Ireland. It's a market garden. So we were here about this time last year at the end of September. Of course, we're just gone beyond the peak of the season, but we didn't get a chance to call in until now. It's just getting colder this time of the year, so we wanted to give you a tour before the frosts come and actually take down a lot of these frost-sensitive plants especially. So over to Charles and Shannon.
How you doing, guys? Great to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and we're going to give you a nice tour of the garden and give you some updates of new things that we've planted and things that are progressing along and what's going to be ready for eating soon.
Just tell us about the garden here. When did you start, and what kind of a method of gardening are you using here for this market garden?
So we're using the no-dig method, which is heavily influenced by Charles Dowding. So we're sheet mulching with compost, and then we use wood chip on our pathways, and we have a mix of annuals and perennials in the garden. Okay,
that's great. Now, you have a new greenhouse I see in the background just over here.
Yeah. And
we'll get to that later. How many acres do you use here for your market garden?
So our market garden is about an acre altogether. Now the cool thing about doing market gardening is extremely intensive because you no longer have to fit the tractor in your field. So even though we only have 1 acre under production, it's the same production as having 12 acres if you're doing tractor-based farming. Of course, we're doing all this by hand. So.
Yeah. And you're basically just smothering the grass and just piling the compost on top.
Yeah, smother the grass. Usually we'll try and damage it either using the poultry or use the lawnmower. And then 6 inches of compost, which we'll pack down a little bit because it's usually too loose initially. And then if it's a perennial bed, we'll put wood chip. If it's an annual bed, we'll just put wood chip on the paths.
The weather is a bit rough here today, but you know, we're trying to get in all the footage between showers. It's starting to rain again. We need to escape. Some of the tubers featured in this video are actually also available on our website. Feel free to take a look. We've got about 50 different edible perennial tubers and cuttings and bare root plants. Take a look at the Jerusalem artichokes. They're actually in bloom at the moment. Any support would be highly appreciated. Thanks a million. So yeah, I see you have all these huge mint pots, probably 120 litres are there?
Yeah.
Something like that. And you have a different variety of mint in every pot.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to definitely do something similar. And yeah, it's just at the right height where you can actually just pick it.
So here on the left hand side we have some of the plants that were put in last year, and then we're continuing to develop everything here on the right side, and we just put in this pond about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. So it's still fresh and it's a little bit cloudy, but that will clear up in the next coming days or weeks. And there's a few little fish gone in, so it'd be nice to watch them grow as they get bigger.
So I suppose the idea is that you're trying to have a nice little ornamental area but also have it productive as well.
So this is for cut flowers and for herbs.
It started raining. Let's take a break. While it's raining, we're going to have a look at this greenhouse here. Check it out. It's actually insulated. 2 layers of plastic and a layer of air in between. Let's go in and take a look. Whoa, the heat in here. Must be about 25 degrees Celsius or so. And outside it's like 10 or so, maybe 12 at the most. So you have a fan here. Hang on, gotta take the jacket off.
So this is a 7.5 meter by 26 meter. It's actually an old mushroom tunnel. So we bought the hoops off another farm locally and turned it into this piece. And so this is a double skin tunnel, which gives you a huge advantage because it traps the heat much better because the 2 layers create a layer of insulation. So it's blown up with a little tiny fan, very, very low energy. And then we have an air circulation fan too, also very low energy. And it is, of course, no dig. So we got this finished, the structure, in about the end of April. And then by the first week of May, we'd have the first couple beds in. Finished it all by the end of May.
That was quick.
Yeah, it's about 35 tons in here.
About 26 meters long, isn't it?
26 by 7.5. Yeah. It's about 4 meters at the ridge, but that was before we started adding all the layers of compost.
Check out the tomatoes. So we'll just take a walk around. So here's the electrics for the 2 fans. One fan is in here. That's the fan actually that blows up these the layers. and you were saying it's 15 minutes off, 15 minutes on. And you can turn up this fan up here. And that fan is enough in volume to actually service the whole greenhouse, but in order to have it run more efficiently and quieter, you were thinking of having a second fan, isn't that right?
Second fan. It's
halfway
just
down.
nice to have the quiet.
Yeah.
I think it's noteworthy to mention this was all built with a ladder and ratchet strap and a few
hand tools.
And I see you got some recycled double glazed windows and doors.
Donated
That's
by
great.
one of our restaurant customers, so that was really nice of them.
Great. That's awesome.
And then we're just
Amazing.
coming to the end of the tomatoes, so we were completely disease-free till about 2 weeks ago, which is pretty normal this time of year. They'll start to shut down themselves.
So even though it's actually raining outside, full blast at the moment, it's bucketing out there, you can actually hardly even hear it in here compared to the other tunnel, because of the second layer of plastic and the air in between that's insulating it. There's a second layer out there, and how the rail at the bottom here, the aluminium rail, you can see how it's creating a seamless finish. There's quite a bit of air pressure in it for that small fan. So the soil temperature is still 18 degrees in here, even though outside it is probably less than 10 degrees, I guess.
I suppose another thing worth mentioning when we build our tunnels, we make them extra tall, because this is to help trap a bigger air volume, because you have more atmosphere in the same pocket of, or the same floor space, if you will. So we get a better performance out of our tunnel. And then by having the fan up in the gable end, we're helping to circulate the upper and lower layers, so evening out the heat throughout the whole tunnel as well. Plus, tomatoes get really tall. So if you have a normal height tunnel and you have 3 meter tomatoes, you only have about 50 centimeters to the skin at the roof, so they get scorched and damaged and all the rest. So that's why we go to extra tall.
It's a shame we weren't here 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So the tomatoes have just finished pretty much now, but look at the way
7 kilos
you've had to kind of lay them down and then bring them up, just because they were going way up there. There's a steel string here acting as a trellis. Sounds like it stopped raining out there. Let's go out there again. We'll just make a start, and we'll have a look at the top garden first. So off we go. Raspberries.
Over here we just have a collection of pots of various things we have to find homes for in different areas of the garden, yet mostly perennials, of course. And, so this is the back section behind the tunnel. This time of year we're not going to use it much, basically till next spring, so we kind of let it just go wild and finish off. So there's asparagus kale was here. We just saved seed from that because we can't get it anymore thanks to Brexit. And here we have chives. This is another rare kale, dazzling blue kale. You can see it's very, very purple blue. They should have called it dazzling purple kale, really. Gorgeous, but it's kind of like a De Niro kale. And then we have some dill that we're keeping for dill fruits for pickling. So these are lovely.
Oh, plenty of dill here.
Yeah, this is fennel.
Oh, sorry. Plenty of fennel here.
Yeah, and of course we're in that time of year where everything just starts to fall down, so all our plants have disappeared now. We do have some really nice keltis coming up there. You can start to see them palm treeing their way up. So this year we started an interesting project on edible dahlias. So we started a lot of different varieties of dahlias from seed, and we just have to go through once they die back and see which ones are tasty, and then we can propagate those and work on ones that taste good. We've also been selling a lot of the flowers because they're also edible as well. So they're quite tasty.
And for bouquets.
And the tubers actually kind of look like yacon as well.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely.
So here we have our 3 native honeybee hives. So we just started this year, so it's our first year with bees, and we're learning lots about them, and they're very interesting, and we love watching them and seeing how the colonies are developing and the queens are getting on, which is really nice. So started with 1 and then got another one, and then that swarmed, and I caught the swarm. So now we have 3. So hopefully next year we'll have some honey for sale as well, so that we can share it with people in the locality.
I see you got some comfrey here, some fruit trees.
Lots of artichokes.
Plenty of artichokes. Artichokes are awesome when you cook them right, and when you eat them with fennel butter.
Yeah. These
Is
are
that
some,
amaranth that I see there?
Yeah, callaloo, all the
Oh,
way
is
from
that
Jamaica,
callaloo?
but I got it from Real Seed, who had seed that goes back a long time. That was brought into the UK probably like 30, 40 years ago. These are yacon from the tiniest stem cuttings I took this year. These were really, really tiny. I just put them up here, and I'm going to leave them over the winter to see how they do, just as an experiment.
That's amazing. Now I know what callaloo looks like. Which part do you eat? Is it the young seed heads or
The leaf.
the leaf? Is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And the stems when they're soft in the spring. This self-seeded, by the way. We didn't plant this year at all.
Okay.
And it actually self-seeded in the field as well. There's a
Yeah.
little bit down below.
Great.
And it's very nice in the shade as well.
Yeah, as the borage. Borage is spread everywhere on the farm.
Yeah, borage is awesome. Really good lung herb as well,
Yeah.
and great in salads. Can you taste that cucumber? Look at all the yacon here. Holy mother, that's a full bed, is it?
Yeah. Give you an idea for height when I stand in there. Yeah, it's gotten tall this year.
Wow.
I'm 6'1", so
Now about 2 meters tall there on the yacon. That's pretty epic.
strangely enough, there's one yacon that's flowering really strongly. It's hard to see today now, but it's just a couple meters down there.
Yeah, I see it there. Yeah. So all the ochas here.
Yeah, this is just a mix of different varieties. Then this is a leucos that we planted from potted up plants. And
Right.
again, yacon from stem cuttings. This is all stem cuttings.
Amazing. And where might you get some tubers?
Gardens for life.
Amazing stuff. Yeah, some carrots, some salads, some onions. I see, are these still the Japanese perennial onions, is it? I remember
Yeah.
them from last year, yeah?
Still going.
Wow, so weird. I remember from the last video from last year there was no greenhouse over there, the big one.
Yeah.
And this is the older greenhouse, the first one. We'll have a look into that in a minute too. You've got apple blossoms in late September. Well, it's confusing times.
Yeah. And these are all clones of the same tree. So these are all propagations from a nursery in Dublin that uses these for commercial fruit production. So they're all the same tree, but one of them is flowering.
What's amazing is you found that when you plant them closer, the trees kind of get stressed because the roots are sort of in competition, and you get more fruit.
Yep.
More fruit production, and it's kind of like a hedge, as a windbreak as well. So I heard. Yeah, one sec.
So this year we had some very late frost, very unusual weather. We actually had our last frost on June 18th, just 3 days before the summer solstice. So unfortunately we lost all our fruit. It froze the flowers just the key time when they need to develop, and so no fruit this year.
Yeah, and your pumpkins, unfortunately, but you sowed some late and you still had a good harvest.
So this is the new block that we started just a couple of months ago. So this was just plain field before we started this, and we put some cardboard around the edges, but the main area is just covered with the compost on the beds and wood chips on the sides. So we've got some different flowers for cut flower and some for medicinal and some herbs, and we've got rocket here on the left. So these are the Tagette flowers. And the leaf can be used in oils, and the flowers are edible. Salt bush over here, and we have some dwarf comfrey in here, which can be used for knitting bones, or it's good for drawing up minerals into the soil for the other plants. And then there's some nasturtiums in the pathway here that just self-seeded, and some cosmos. It's got a mix of different cosmos, but they're just kind of past it now, but they were fabulous. And then the Rudbeckia have been lovely this year. Some beautiful blooms. Beautiful autumn colour. And then we've got some muscamallow here. And these are edible flowers too.
So this is one of the crops we decided to trial this year. This is called maca. It's from the very high equatorial part of the Andes. It's the highest grown crop in the world.
It's also known as Peruvian ginseng because there's a lot of health benefits. It's hard to see, but they make like a parsnip type root but smaller. Now we're just trialing them. These guys take a long time to grow, about 10 months. And where they are, they're in a frost zone that also gets equatorial sun, so they need huge amounts of light.
Saltbush, one of our favourites actually, a really good leaf crop.
Martin saltbush. Aurora Rubens contained.
You can't contain Aurora Rubens.
It's all the chufa and the reserve oca. We started this on April 5th of 2020, this block, and it has certainly just taken off in productivity this year. This first bed is white truffle artichokes, Jerusalem artichokes. You can see they're touching 4.5 meter there. Here we have our purple tree spinach just come to an end. We have some De Niro kale, which we'll be harvesting right through winter and into the frost. I've got black Spanish radish here, which is a really beautiful storage radish and one of the nicest roast vegetables for those who've never eaten it. It's really amazing. It's up there with sweet potato and things. So we have different carrots. I have either rainbows or sugar snap in there, I can't remember. One of our new favorites we grew this year is Emperor runner beans. These are absolutely the best string bean that I've ever eaten, and they get huge. I'll probably find a big one here for you.
Wow.
We had peas in this bed, but we took those out, so we follow that with fennel because it's kind of a good succession. More carrots, more De Niro kale. We have our parsnips then, which we're holding on till, we'll harvest these right up until March. I think it's a real waste to harvest parsnips before the frost because they're so nice 2 or 3 weeks after the frost, almost as if they've been dusted in cinnamon, you know.
All right.
And I have more black Spanish radish. We have some Petrowski turnips, which are our favorite turnip. They're kind of a golden yellow, but really nice taste. And then we have a big block of all different kinds of Jerusalem artichokes.
Definitely one of your favourites.
Yeah, there's 6 beds in there underneath all those.
Yeah.
And again, they're up to about 4.5 meter, and they're just starting to bud to come into flower. So
Yeah, I find Aurora Reuben is actually the first to come to flower.
yeah. So after the Jerusalems, then we've got daikon radish and more black Spanish under this cover. Keep it safe from the birds. Then we've got 2 different kinds of beetroot, reds and the Chioggia candy cane beetroot. Bed of Romanesco. Then we have 2 beds of a purple cauliflower. We're really excited to try this year. Can't wait to see what that tastes like. Then another one we started growing this year was Dutch cabbage. So these make like a nice tight conical head, but very quick. And some
Self-seeding nasturtiums, of course.
yeah, and radishes, because radish pods are really tasty. There's a bed of red Russian kale just coming up there.
And that'll grow until the winter, even now at the end of September, yeah?
Yeah, that'll grow right through the spring. And one of my favorite things of that now is actually the spring flower blossoms. They're like mini broccolis with exceptionally good flavour.
Yeah.
Then we have 1,000 head kale. Again, one of the nicest eating kales. You can eat this all the way through winter and you just never really get tired of eating it. It's just delicious. And the leaves just get immense.
Huge, yeah. It's kind of like, looks a bit like Portuguese kale.
Yeah.
But no central leader, like it's not.
Yeah, it has a
one.
tendency to split off.
I think this is tastier too.
Yeah. And then we
have
just
more
have
pumpkins.
big block of pumpkins.
Oh my god.
So these got frozen on June 18th, and we thought that was it. Our pumpkins are doomed, but somehow they came back, and they're just everywhere in here. Although it's hard to see underneath the leaves, you have to climb in.
And we'll have to collect those anyway soon because you don't want them getting damaged by the frost.
No, we did a first picking so far, and we got about 100 of them so far. So I think there's about the same in there again.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
So here we have some beetroots. We have red beetroots and more of the Chioggia, the candy cane ones at the back of that bed. And in the second bed then we have more golden beets. They're coming along and we've started harvesting the first ones out of them. And then we have 2 beds of gorgeous rainbow chard. We were very happy with this sowing because our previous sowing all came out pretty much white when it was meant to be rainbow. So we tried again and we got fresh seed, and this is really, really nice and happy with it. And then we have some more brassicas, some broccolis, calabreses, and then this crop here is definitely worth mentioning. This is Aztec broccoli. Horizontal is another name for it. So you eat the leaves like spinach, and you eat the grain, the seed pod like quinoa. So
It looks very much like purple tree spinach.
very similar because it's goosefoot family as well.
And it has even the same kind of colouring on the stems
Mhm.
too.
this time of year when it's
stripy.
going to seed, they look very similar. But earlier in the year, the purple tree spinach is much more vibrant in colour. And it's really, really nice with cheese.
You're going to get plenty of seed anyway.
Yes, we're going to save some so we can just sprinkle it on our dishes through the winter as well.
And would you mind me just asking you a question about that kind of crop? Was it not spread seed everywhere? And how do you actually contain it? Like, if you want to collect some seeds from it.
Well, we're going to take out most of it fairly soon because it's finished. The stems get too woody for eating and it's not as nice to eat. So most of it will come out and we can leave just a small patch at the end of the bed then if we want to save seed from it, if we want to mature it more.
That's basically what we did as well with the purple tree spinach.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then moving on here, this bed was broad beans and we will re-sow it with something else shortly. And here we have some of the Ishikorona, the Japanese spring onions, the giant ones that we had at the back of the tunnel that you saw. So fresh planting for winter, so we have nice fresh spring onions. And then we have some more of the alucos here. Remember you sent that big bag of alucos?
Tiny ones.
The tiny ones?
Yeah.
This is what we
amazing.
threw them in, and we didn't think they would get anywhere this size.
I just put them in a furrow, 2 furrows down the bed.
What
we were
colour
late in
ones are
season.
these?
Mix.
The whole mix of
Mixed
bits.
colours.
Some of the bits were only about 2 or 3 mil and still sprouting.
Yeah.
So I had never expected the plants to get this big. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that when they fall over, they actually root into the ground and make more tubers. So unlike the oca, you don't have to mulch these ones.
If you look, you can see the flowers and the coming on there.
Now lift another bit, you'll see the root.
Yeah.
There you go.
You see how the stem is rooting?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like
Like
just
how a
trailing
tomato.
along.
A tomato is similar
Yeah,
how it does
yeah.
that. And then we have some lovely kohlrabis here, purple kohlrabis growing down there, fighting off the alucos, and some more brassicas, some broccolis.
It's not split. That's beautiful. So this planting of broccoli is our purple sprouting for spring. We also have purple sprouting we planted almost at the same time that's flowering now in this fall. So it's great when you can time by variety your different crops to come at different times, even if you plant them at the same date.
great.
And then the real key to the purple sprouting broccoli for the spring is get your plants as big as you possibly can before winter. So I'm very pleased with these. These are nice waist height now.
So here we have some rhubarb that was started from seed, some mashua up at the back that's crawling up the fence,
And one here as well.
yeah, one that we threw in there because we had a little bit of space at the end, so we don't waste the space when we can.
Yep.
And also here we have some horseradish growing here, so we'll dig that up and split that in a few weeks' time.
Strategically at the edge of the garden, just not to have it spread.
Yeah, keep an eye
And
on
if
it.
it does spread just in the corner, I always say that to people when planting the likes of Jerusalem artichokes and Chinese artichokes.
Willis! Hey pig! Willis! Hey pigs! Willis has tusks now. Big ass tusks. Look at.
Hello.
You see the big tusks? They're huge. Looks like he has a mustache. So we also keep a few animals around here. These are Coon pigs. Coon pig are an interesting breed. You often see them online as the micro pigs. Of course, these would be babies. In real life, they get up to about 200 kilo. They're very interesting because they like the Irish climate. You can see today is very cold, very windy, and there's not a bother on these two. They're outside just foraging, loving it all, life and everything else. Now, of course, one of the things on a veg farm is you do get some waste. So rather than waste any of our stuff, it all goes to feed the animals. So here you can see Miss Piggy is finishing off a few onions that weren't up to grade. Another interesting fact about the coon pigs is they can fatten on grass. So this is a pig that basically can live quite like a sheep and get to full size and maturity just on a grass diet alone. So to give you an idea, these guys are about 2 years old now, but they'll continue to get quite a bit bigger. So
Sit, pig. Sit. 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 Oh, there's a good pig. Good pig. happy pig.
A pig with a carrot is a happy pig. So this is the older greenhouse. Let's take a look at it. You want to talk about it for a minute? So this is your packing station here, your packing area.
Yeah, soon to be replaced with a nice shiny wash house. Okay, so welcome to our old tunnel. A few things changed, a few things the same. So over here we finally got around to building ourselves a nice potting table. And of course, always in the mindset of recycling, I use one of my old flight cases to give us a place to put the soil, which is great because it holds 2 bags, so it's very handy. If you have a look up here, we've got some asparagus kale we mentioned earlier. There's the seed drying out, and some bay leaf. There's a few pumpkins from the first harvest over there, and Martin might have snuck us a few cuttings there. One thing we did different this year is we finally got around to setting up our aquaponics system. So aquaponics is growing plants in water, and the plants clean the water for the fish, and the fish fertilize the plants. So it's a real balanced system, very similar to what happens next to a river in nature. Some people think it's a little bit artificial, but really it's exactly what happens next to a river. So we have some vertical grow towers. At the moment we've got strawberries and basil, and here's another micro basil they just planted. You can see the strawberries. So these guys are a little bit rough after we're coming to September, so we got a little bit of dead foliage and stuff like that to clean up, but nothing unusual. Just a nice calla lily. A few onions finishing.
Here's your Mauser.
Yeah. Here's Lazy, who's supposed to catch the mice. So a few other plants that are going into our other tunnel for the winter. There's a really special plant over there in those 2 pots. I don't know if anyone's heard of oyster leaf, but we're working to grow it. So I bred these 2 for seed this year. Another one we're real proud of we're working on is yuzu. So here's about 75 yuzu seedlings that hopefully will eventually get planted outside and into nice big citrus trees right here in Ireland. So one of the bad things about the heat this year is we got red spider mite, so our corn is a little bit affected. You can see how the leaves are all destroyed and dried, but we added a predator mite, but a little bit too late in the season because they really took off with the heat. So you can see some winter celery.
There's another banana.
Oh, Martin thinks he's got a banana. No, this is a bird of paradise.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
And I actually got this as a seed many years ago at Amsterdam Flower Market. I got bit as a tourist and bought those 2 little seeds for like €25.
Wow.
And anyway, this is one. It's been frozen a few times, so you can see it's actually a lot bigger than it looks. If you look at the main
Does it
stem.
take 4 years to go to flower, isn't that right?
Well, it's about 8 years old now, so yeah.
It's no flowers yet.
Yeah, so you can see a few more pumpkins curing, and some of our melons. We got a few this year. It was a good year. Another bed that's sitting there empty. This is a great herb. We really love this stuff. Papilo it's called. So it's another one of the unusual herbs from Peru, typically used in salsas. Another thing we're really proud of this year is we have baby pawpaw trees. So all germinated ourselves, and these guys are another long-term project. And you've heard of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Have you heard Spudge in the Sky? This is our cinnamon vine gifted to us from Martin. And as you can see, we have little tiny potatoes all over.
It's a Chinese yam or Chinese potato, perennial potato.
Yeah.
And you can mention the yields as well.
Yeah, the main kilo or the main tuber can get up to 95 kilos, I believe. So well, it'll be interesting. We'll take this one out. You can see these are actually they're not so small either, and they're falling. Okay, where are we then? Oh, here's another one we started from seed this year. It's a banana passion fruit. Some gorgeous purple oxalis.
Check out the grapes. Look how hot it got in
Yeah.
the summer.
And you see what's in front of the grapes is our avocado trees, which are doing really well. This one overwintered -3. And there's our grapes that made it. And here's our grapes that didn't make it.
Well, they did make it, but they turn into raisins in the middle of the summer because it's so hot in here.
I think we got to 52, something like that.
52 degrees Celsius.
We have cucamelons. These guys are so tasty. Really, really good. Another experiment, we put some yak on in the tunnel just to see how big it gets. Of course it's sprawled, so we had to tie it up there. And baby ginger. So this is another one we're trialing. We might put this into production next year because it's certainly done well. It likes it hot, so we grow it under plastic in the polytunnel, and this seems to have worked really well.
So here we have our loofah. They didn't do as well as last year because we got some red spider mite damage, but we still got some nice ones, and this is the first one that we just harvested, and I've left it to dry naturally. It's unbleached and we don't treat it with anything.
What is loofah?
So loofah is it's a plant, and it makes these kind of gourds, and
Looks like a cucumber.
yes, and then on the inside it has this sponge that you can use for cleaning your pots and pans, or you can use it for in the shower for cleaning yourself with soap, and that's what I mostly use it for. And I'll be using them for putting them into the soaps that I'm making myself as well.
Right.
And then if you...
We'll put a link below.
Yeah.
And here's the seeds.
So this is the seed of the loofah.
So obviously those are actually dried. So you take these when they're ripe, these cucumber-like looking vegetables,
Yeah.
and you dry them, is it? And then
Yes, so
hear them.
you know they're ripe when you can hear the seeds rattling on the inside, so it starts to dry out naturally itself, and at the end of the season then, if they're not ready for harvest, you can throw them in the oven and it'll dry it out too.
For those of you who have come this far, thanks very much for watching the video. We appreciate you as an audience very much, and hopefully you get something out of it. Hopefully you can establish your own market garden, or even vegetable gardens, or whatever kind of garden you have or you want to establish. And if you have any questions, please let us know in the comments below. Thanks very much. If you live near Loughrea in County Galway in Ireland, you should definitely get in on some of the veg boxes that Charles and Shannon have available at the Bullaun Ark every week. And if you're interested in growing some of the perennial tuberous vegetables that are featured in this video, please have a look at our website.